This episode is brought to you by Lifetime. In 1998, a 14-year-old girl went missing and was believed to be the victim of a serial killer until she showed up at his murder trial 5 years later, very much alive. In this Lifetime original movie, inspired by true events, unpack the story of a mother searching for answers after her daughter's disappearance. Watch The Girl Who Wasn't Dead, Saturday at 8, part of Truly Unbelievable Movies, only on Lifetime.
Today on CityCast Boise, we're diving into the local controversy surrounding a Meridian police officer whose viral arrest video and transfer to the Boise Police Department has been making headlines. Then we weigh the pros and cons of red light cameras. Plus, our pick of the week has been named one of the top fall festivals in the country. It's Friday, October 4th. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. Happy Friday, everyone. Joining me today is Boise Public Radio's George Prentice. Glad to have you back on the show, George.
Glad to be here. Hi.
So there are so many things we need to be talking about. First of all, that for all the people who are racing through yellow lights or, just hitting the edge of those red lights, some big changes might be coming in Boise.
Absolutely. I think that most people have heard of cameras that monitor traffic. In fact, a number of Idaho cities have cameras mounted, but it just so happens that none of these cameras are used for enforcement. So what the city of Boise is talking about is using cameras for enforcement. In other words, you would be ticketed if you're caught on camera. It would be the first time in Idaho for someone to do this. So just so you know, these other cameras in other cities, they're just kind of monitoring traffic. You see them sometimes on traffic reports, on the television news reports, things like that, but they're not really doing anything with that. So Boise is in this really, really unique position. Other cities really scratch their heads when people in Boise say, yeah, we don't control our streets. So the city of Boise has no say of what goes on from curb to curb, so to speak. We have a highway district, ACHD. And so the city of Boise, if they want to do anything that involves traffic lights, that involves traffic, that involves the streets, they have to ask permission. And so the city of Boise is going to strike a contract with ACHD to mount cameras on red lights, not every red light. They're going to be very specific about which intersections they're going to do this at, but these are going to capture people when they run through the red light. And so it's very early in the process. They haven't decided which company they want to go with, the cameras, which streets they want to put it on. But my guess is by this time next year, this will probably be happening.
Okay, George, I have a question because at least I know in Meridian there are cameras on streetlights, but I was under the impression that in Idaho, like an officer has to witness you commit a crime or there has to be some kind of a witness. They can't just like give you a traffic ticket from a camera. That was originally like what Meridian wanted to do, and they got so much pushback they don't do that. So can this happen in Boise where if I, let's say I drive through a red light, the camera takes a picture and they just like mail me a ticket? Is that something that they can do?
Not entirely, because to your point, an officer of the law is going to have to review these and say, yep, and here's the evidence. And by the way, this evidence is pretty darn good. I've been poking around with what's happening in other cities. I've been looking at some of the companies that do this. The city of Boise quite often talks about, when they compare themselves to similar cities, they talk a lot about Colorado Springs. So I took a deep dive into Colorado Springs, and it turns out that, yes, they happen to have this recently. They have added cameras at stoplights, and they will charge somebody $75 if they've got evidence. And this evidence is going to have a picture of your license plate, a picture of you behind the wheel, and they will also have video of this. In other words, the few seconds before and a few seconds after. So it's rather compelling. So legally, an officer will have reviewed this, and legally, an officer is the one who will say, yep, this one's going out in the mail.
And has the city of Boise, I know they don't have a company yet or the exact camera, have they given any cost estimates to what this might cost the city to have implemented?
It's a great question because I've been really trying to find out the answer to this. Now their official answer right now is that, well, we haven't even decided who we want to do this with. So what I did was I found the Colorado Springs, and what they did, it turns out that yes, they put money up front, but the city insists that the entire system pays for itself through the fines. So, yes, there will probably be considerable upfront costs, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this. But they're insisting, at least these other cities are, that the program pays for itself through the fines.
You know, I have a lot of mixed feelings about this because, I for myself maybe don't want these cameras just in case, just in case I have a whoopsie. But I will say lots of people run red lights in this area. Like more so than I feel other places. It's blatant. Like the light will be fully red and cars, trucks, everything would just like race through. So I do feel like there's this disregard for red lights that is very dangerous in Boise.
It is. And I think you've hit right on the personal conflict that most of us have. We are at a crisis moment of way too many people and bicyclists, et cetera, being hit by cars, and then just accidents all around. And
Mm-hmm.
worse yet, how many thousands of potential accidents happen every day? So we see this all the time. That said, I do have to think twice about cameras taking pictures of all of these vehicles. My first question is, are the cameras that we're going to choose, will they be taking images of individuals, the people behind the wheel? Because I've heard of instances where some programs do not take a picture of the driver, but they have the vehicle, the time, the location, the date, and of course, the license plate. But of course, a person could always say, yeah, but that was my niece who was driving. I didn't break the law.
Yeah.
And they can dispute that. Well, it turns out that a number of cities that Boise wants to compare itself to uses a system that actually captures images of people. Not too long ago, there was a lot of pushback on this type of technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
CCTV. And it's an invasion of privacy, quite frankly. But
Yeah.
9/11 changed everything. 9/11, all of a sudden, cities and law enforcement all around the world start putting cameras on streets everywhere. You can't watch a crime program nowadays where the first question that a policeman says is like, "Hey, do we have CCTV of the scene?" Right?
Yeah.
But it's like, when did that happen? When did we start putting all these cameras everywhere? Well, it was 9/11 that changed everything. And I think this has kind of cracked the door open to doing this. Now, in the deal that the city agreed to this week, it actually makes reference to, hey, we're doing this to make our streets safer. That's a good point. But I think this is going to be a really interesting conversation. They're going to have a public hearing on this. Money
Absolutely.
money
As they
will have to be
should.
spent on, to install these. And those comments, I think, are going to be really interesting because I think most of us are split on this.
I agree. And I think I do have mixed emotions where, like you said, there are too many accidents. There are too many near misses. Just even walking around Boise, I've seen people almost get hit, like pedestrians who clearly had the right of way. The light had been red for a couple of seconds and a car comes barreling by and almost hits somebody on a scooter, on a bike, just walking. And so it is very dangerous. And then balancing that with do I want cameras taking pictures of me? And that it does feel kind of like an invasion of privacy. But is that the compromise we have to make for that safety? I don't know. That's that compromise that, I don't know what the answer is necessarily.
Well, I want to leave you with a couple of things. As I mentioned, I was digging into this company called Vera Mobility, and it turns out that their cameras are being used in some 300 cities in North America. So I would imagine they're going to be on Boise's shortlist. According to them, in 2022, we issued more than 15 million red light citations. Roughly 70% of people who received a citation did not receive a second one. In other words, they're saying, hey, it actually works. And need we remind anyone that Brian Kohlberger was caught using this technology? If you remember, he drove cross country to Pennsylvania to allegedly get rid of some evidence. It was this technology that caught images of his vehicle and his license plate that got the FBI to arrest him and bring him back to Idaho and charge him with the murders of those 4 University of Idaho students. And this actually came up this week at Boise City Hall when Colin Nash, the council president, said, hey, didn't this same technology, is this what they used to catch Kohlberger? And it's like, yeah, this is exactly what they used. So can it be used for bigger investigations? Absolutely.
Prime Big Deal Days is coming October 8th and 9th with exclusive savings just for Prime members. Woohoo! Involuntary deal squeals can happen, like the deal on new running shoes squeal. The deal on a new blender squeal. Yeah! Or the infamous deal on a new massager squeal. Yeah! Save big on electronics, fashion, and more this Prime Big Deal Days, October 8th and 9th.
Ask your doctor about Air Supra, albuterol budesonide. Eligible patients can pay as little as $0 per inhaler, subject to eligibility rules and maximum savings limits. Restrictions may apply. Visit airsuprasavings.com to learn more.
Okay, so the red light cameras aren't the only controversial thing that has been part of lots of conversations I've been part of in the Treasure Valley. There's also the issue with Officer Bradley Chambers. Have you read about what's going on with him?
I have. It's difficult not to have an opinion on this, but all I want to do is just know as much as possible about this.
Yeah, and Officer Bradley Chambers is an officer who transferred from California to Meridian, I believe, in 2020. And there was an arrest that happened in June of this year, so June of 2024, where a young man got in a wreck on a road with a dirt bike. He was doing a wheelie. He crashed. He needed EMS help. And later in the day, his brothers were going to go pick up the dirt bike, take it home. And an Officer Bradley Chambers, showed up. And there's a video on YouTube. It was first reported by the civil rights lawyer on YouTube. And he has a pretty big channel. And the video showed him talking to the brothers. One of the brothers is filming. He asked them to take the dirt bike out of the truck. One of the brothers says, hey, it was really hard to get in there. Can you take a picture from the truck? Do we have to take it off? The officer swipes at the brother who's filming, swipes at the camera, and then grabs one of the brothers, Samson Allen, has his arms behind his back, says, stop resisting, swipes his legs, has him on the ground, and then has his knee on this young man's throat as he's arresting him. And so this has caused quite a bit of feelings in the community of Meridian about this arrest, about how it went down, about what happened to this young man, about how the officer handled the situation. And it really went viral. Again, Idaho went viral for not great reasons. And this was picked up by national stories by this large YouTube lawyer who broke down what had happened in the case and why this was such a big problem. So understandably, there was outrage in Meridian. People wanted to know about this cop, about what was going on, about his history, because it turns out he also has other interesting use of force choices. There was an arrest in April 2021 in Meridian where he ended up punching somebody in the face 6 times. The police department said that this Officer Chambers, didn't violate any policy then. either. But as this story began to grow and more people were aware of it, the Meridian police chief said, Officer Chambers has relocated. We're investigating it, but he's no longer in Meridian. It turns out, the story broke this week, he transferred to Boise Police Department. So he's no longer with Meridian, but he is in Boise.
Well, I've got 100 questions. The first two are that Meridian absolutely owes it to its constituents for a thorough investigation. Internal, sure, but an independent investigation of this, because quite frankly, this could be a lawsuit, this could be charges against the officer, etc. Let's assume that the officer was talking with the city of Boise, before this incident or maybe close to this incident. Everyone certainly has a right to work and a right to apply for a job. And so, the city of Boise must have done some preliminary background. Certainly, I hope it was much more than just making a few calls to Meridian police saying, is he a good guy? You've really got to do a thorough background nowadays. Now, that said, I think he started with Boise early September. So I have to assume that he's still under some probationary period, right? At least 90 days.
Well, and the original incident happened in June. It just started to surface the beginning of September. So I think that timing is very interesting that the investigation was started recently. So, the
but
Meridian
it's in
Police
Boise's
Department
interest to really get in front of this and find out exactly what happened within 90 days of this guy's employment, so they can say, this is not going to work out. Or, okay, you did the right thing. But I think those 90 days are really important. One other little wrinkle, he was hired when our last police chief was in power, right? Ron Weiniger was chief at that time, and he retired on September 20th. Now, that doesn't make the importance of this any less to the new police chief. As a matter of fact, it's probably going to be his first big test. My guess is he's got plenty of questions from City Hall, let alone reporters. You better get this right.
Yeah, and there is a lot of scrutiny. More and more local news stations have been picking this up. And the Boise Police Department commented that a thorough background investigation into Officer Chambers was conducted, and now he's currently in the training program. And so I'm very curious, were they aware of this incident when they hired him? Was this part of the background check? Because they said that any lateral transfers have to have left their former agency in good standing. So will the results of this investigation change that? There is a feeling that this was just a shuffling of officers, and that does not inspire confidence for the public.
Absolutely. And that's why you can't say that if you're Boise police, you cannot say, oh, we did our investigation. No, this file is still wide open. Number one, there's the Meridian investigation. And number two, who isn't waiting for the second shoe to drop? It sounds like there could be legal action on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm very interested with this additional scrutiny. What happens next? And I'm glad that the public is aware of this and talking about this and asking questions, because that is what the public should be doing right now. Okay, George, those were some heavy topics, some controversial topics. So I want to dive into picks of the week, end out the week with some positive things. My pick of the week is Meridian Oktoberfest. I am actually really, really excited about this. Downtown Meridian is going to do it upright. It's on October 5th from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. They're having, it's a family-friendly Oktoberfest, which, really fits the vibe of Meridian. And they're going to have like strudel eating contest, the Boise Edelweiss band, a brat eating contest, a keg tossing contest. I'm just excited to watch. I'm excited to be a spectator. Costume contest. They're going to have all different types of musicians. They're closing down Idaho, 2nd Street, and Broadway. So it's just going to be this big space where you can just wander and enjoy. They're going to have different vendors. I just think it's going to be really fun. And the weather this weekend is supposed to be spectacular. So I think it'll be a great place to just go hang with the family. Everyone has things to do, things to see, and just really relax and get in that Oktoberfest vibe. I'm really excited about it.
It sounds like a blast, but my guess is there would be two shades of the Oktoberfest, and that would be Oktoberfest before 6 p.m. and what happens after 6 p.m.
Yes.
So
yes.
I would think that it's less strudel after 6 p.m. And more lederhosen and yodeling before 6 p.m.
Yeah. Yes, definitely two different vibes for sure. But that's kind of, that's not a bad thing. Definitely bring the kids in the morning and come back later for, the other activities. No, I love stuff like that. So I am very excited about that. I think sometimes Meridian gets a bad rap for being kind of the bedroom community that it is. So I'm really excited to see more of these activities that Meridian is like, no, we're going to do this. We have one of the largest growing populations in the state. Like we are going to have activities for our citizens, and Meridian really shows up for these things. I'm proud of us.
I love the fact that it's not near a shopping complex too, because I think that a lot of people think of Meridian, it's like, oh, we go there to shop. And so, no, this sounds very neighborhoody and fun and outdoors. And like you said, the weather is going to be perfect.
Okay, George, what is your pick of the week? Is it a movie?
Well, it was going to be a movie.
Oh, no, it's not. Okay, all right.
But for this weekend, it is the Trailing of the Sheep Festival. And of course, sheep in Idaho, go back centuries, right? With our Basque and Peruvian roots. And the sheep have had to traverse sometimes through the Wood River Valley to get to pasture. But all this week in the Wood River Valley and Ketchum and Sun Valley, et cetera, they've got all these events. But if you've never been to the Big Sheep Parade, which is Sunday, where just thousands of sheep just fill every inch of the downtown, it's a bucket list thing. And because the weather is so nice, it's definitely worth the drive. And if you go, the first time you go, within 30 seconds, you'll say, oh, we're coming back. And then you'll want it. And they've got like all these other things to do for kids and gourmets and all this stuff, lots of food and all that. But to see this army of sheep just basically take over a town, it's hilarious, but it is very functional. I mean, they just don't parade them there for a reason. They're on their way. The sheep herders are moving the sheep, but it's like, but between this pasture and that pasture is this town. So it's the Trailing of the Sheep Festival for me.
Okay, so what, as somebody who's been before, what is maybe like the best vantage point?
There isn't a bad
Okay, so there's no, so just kind of, if you can get there, it's going to be great.
Yeah, it starts around midday, but it's all about just finding some place to park your car and then realizing you're not getting back in that car for a few hours. There isn't a bad vantage point. I mean, think of it. I mean, it's just that they're coming at you. They're just, and they keep coming and coming and coming, and it's pretty cool because it's the sound of thousands of sheep too.
That's true. Maybe the smell also.
Oh, there is definitely some of that, which is, thank goodness, it's not a hot, steamy weekend. So, and it's a little cooler there. It's definitely a little gamey, but it's such a thing. And if you've got kids, you've got to do this.
Oh, I love that recommendation. Okay, so there's Oktoberfest, maybe different things for different folks. There's the sheep, and then you've got Oktoberfest. So something for everyone. Thank you so much, George.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lindsay.
That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. The show is produced by Evelyn Avitia, Frankie Barnhill, Lizzie Goldsmith, and me, Lindsay Van Allen. Blake Hunter writes our Hey Boise newsletter, and our music is by Up Is the Down Is The. If you enjoyed our show today, leave us a review. It helps other people find us. We'll be back on Monday with a first-time home buyer's guide. See you then.